welcome everybody to Battlefield Podcast episode 139. I am Ola, aka Chop1, alongside Tim, aka Darkness429. It's a wintry weekend up here in the good old north of Canada. It's starting to get cold outside. What's it like down there in Florida for you, Tim?
It's actually chilly. We had a low of 54 degrees Fahrenheit the last night. So you're sending the cold weather this way, so we appreciate it.
Sure, you're welcome. You're welcome. I want to introduce you to this week's guest. We have with us James, a.k.a. Adama42 from purebattlefield.org with us this week. And we're going to spend some time talking about Pure Battlefield as well as some of the Reddit community in regards to Battlefield 3. So that should be exciting. The one thing that I want to mention at the beginning of the show here is we want to plug one of our other shows. If you haven't checked it out yet, the Battlefield Podcast Clip of the Week show. You can find it on YouTube. Basically, every week, the community, or anybody, so you can as well, submit a video clip, something funny, something cool, a great play that you came across, whatever. 30 seconds to a minute long. And we'll put it on the video clip, and we'll post it up on YouTube, and then people get to vote on it afterwards. So there's one right now that you should vote. I think it's strawpoll.me/4360.
That sounds right.
And there's a nice clip from Dasco in there as well. He sent us like the 6-minute action-filled footage from Sane Crossing, and picked out a minute of footage. I don't want to influence the vote, but it's kind of cool because I always enjoy some of the footage that he creates because you see a lot of the communication between him and his, I guess, squad mates. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, well, he does a lot of competitive play. So his mentality is always, communication, because in competitive play you have to be able to talk to your teammates. So yeah, it was a really good video.
Yes, it was. Also, the other thing I want to mention is that November is Movember. If you haven't heard of that before, it is it's actually a little. I guess it's an event or something. It's for men's health, and to promote it, you're supposed to start growing a mustache for the entire month of November. And we've created a couple of teams, one for Canada, the US, the UK, and we'd love for you guys to join us. We've partnered up with mohhq.com, which is the sister site of Battlefieldo. And basically the idea is to be clean shaven on the 1st of November, and then for the next 30 days, groom a stash.
Ooh.
And there's a lot of people that I'll have to call you out. There's a lot of people like, this is a great idea, I'm totally going to do that, and then nobody joins the teams. So for everybody out there who's too chicken, Tim, you already said they're going to look funny, but you're still going to do it.
It's probably going to look funny, but I bit the bullet and said I'll do it. Yeah. So please, if you're in the US, Canada, Europe, join our teams. Because the more and more I think about it, I really want to do it. Because the ladies have October for breast cancer awareness, and the men have it for November. So let's try to get some money raised and some awareness put out there for men's health.
Yes, and JRB from mohhq.com also pledged to give out a T-shirt or something as a prize. We're going to do the same, but only if people actually participate. So we'll give out the T-shirt for like the coolest looking mustache or something like that at the end of November. So we'll do that. There is a website, short link, tinyurl.com/Movember. You'll find information more about what this does and a link to join the team as well. So we urge you to do that, and you're going to hear us bugging you and calling you pussies if you don't sign up for the rest of the month. So that's going to happen. There's a little bit of news this week. A lot of it actually deals with Medal of Honor Warfighter, but first we'll talk about some Battlefield news.
And now for the latest Battlefield news.
So this Battlefield news, this was an announcement that there's going to be a console command added that will give users the ability to disable color grading. Now, color grading is what we talked about a few episodes back, and we also talked with Level Cap about in the last weekend. This is the, I guess, blue filter, or whatever they call it. It's that tint that is on. It's all over Battlefield 3, and I guess people had figured out how to disable it, and then they started posting pictures, and everyone's like, oh, that looks so much cooler without the blue.
Yep, exactly.
And now they're going to let people do that.
I have to confess, it was a long time into Battlefield 3 before I actually realized there was a blue filter on all the maps. It was only from reading community discussions where people were complaining incessantly about it. Like, I figured there was one on Metro. I always thought it looked blue, but everywhere else I had just not picked up on it.
Right, and it's very discreet. If anything, it's on the fog, kind of in the background. But the more and more I look at it, I actually realize there is a blue tint when they actually show side-by-side images of what it would look like with it off and with it on.
Yeah, the side-by-side, it's really clear.
Yeah, exactly. And Mikhail Combs, one of the senior programmers, actually said that we're going to put it in the game for you guys in the next client update, but we're not going to give any support to it. We're not going to answer any questions. It's just going to be there. If you want to use it, you can use it. And we firmly believe that it's not going to give any type of advantage to players. It's just there's so many people whining about it. I think they got tired of hearing this excessive just whining and yammering in their ears. Like, fine, here, take it, do what you want with it, but don't try to, hack our game. Make it something that we didn't design it to be. I think that's the biggest complaint from DICE is that they don't want people to embrace the idea of having to do memory injections and whatnot, the way that hackers go in and use aimbots and wall hacks and whatnot. So I like that they're actually putting somewhat of a support in there so that we don't have the type of corruption that we've seen so far. But still, I mean, I think it looks fine. I haven't really noticed it. It doesn't bother my eyes.
I'm going to see somebody in the chat ask if we could show a picture. There's a bunch on YouTube. Even if you just go there or just Google BF3 without blue tint or whatever, it's all over the place there. It does look a lot more vibrant without it, but it is also sort of, one of the trademarks of Battlefield 3. That's what they said. That's why they did it, so that it doesn't look like every other shooter out there. Exactly. I find it interesting that they're almost caving to the pressure. I mean, I guess people had figured out how to do it, so I guess the choice was either to let people do what they want, or to make it official, or to ban people who do it somehow. We can sort of consider it a hack or cheat. But
right, it almost looks.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, James.
I was just going to say, I kind of like this balance where they've given the people that really, really care about it a way to do it and make themselves happy without, the fact that you have to go into the console and type an undocumented command to do it, and that it's not actually in the game UI. It feels like a better balance where they're sort of not fully endorsing it.
Right.
It's sort of clear you're doing something outside the constraints of their design, and that's kind of your own thing.
Yeah, because they did say that there's not going to be any in-game UI to do this, and I guess it's also going to break some things, like the IRNV scope's not going to look right. And
it looks horrible. Like, I think the tanks look pink. There's an image. Usually, like when you look at a tank with an IRNV, it's hot. It's showing off the infrared, and a tank is very warm with the diesel engine and whatnot. And so it gives off different colors: orange, yellow, and red. But this one is just this hot pink. It looks horrible. I don't know why you'd want to do it to your game, but if you're one of those people, go for it. It's there. It's
always difficult because they also say that they're not going to support any questions or bug reports, and you just know that it's going to happen anyways. I mean, but maybe because it's tucked away in the console settings, and they're not going to have an actual UI option for it. Maybe most people that don't know what they're doing wouldn't stumble across it anyways. I think I want to try it out once just to see what it's like, but I don't mind the way Battlefield 3 looks. I've never had a problem with it. So.
No, I like it. And even in the new games in the new map, that we had in the newest expansion pack, I haven't noticed a blue tint except for Death Valley.
Yeah,
Death Valley is the only one in Armored Kill that has a very blue tint. But there's a huge moon, so they have to do something.
Death Valley is almost underwater.
Yeah, it's very blue. But the lead designers have come and said this is the way we want the game to look. It's our game. Deal with it.
I like the non-blue pictures, like all the screenshots that were posted. I was like, oh wow, that does look really pretty. Like it's nice to see what Wake Island looks like in really natural colors. But I still like it with the blue. The piece that's always been a little puzzling to me is the degree of like passion and frustration that people have about how they just hate the blue tint. Which sort of puzzles, and I don't know if it's aesthetic or if it's sort of a manifestation of maybe, I kind of wonder whether some of it is not so much about the blue, and maybe some of it's about not feeling listened to by DICE about the blue, and maybe that's why people were kind of up in arms on it. But
if anything, it could just be a bandwagon effect. You have one person that starts it, and everyone else just jumps on behind him and just goes with it for the sake of just doing it.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, some of it will be like, oh, okay, they're pandering to the whiners. On the other hand, it's they're listening to what people want. I guess it's sort of a compromise. I also think that they're at the stage with Battlefield 3 where they're like, okay, you know what, fine. If you want to have it without the blue tint the way we designed it, go ahead. Have pink tanks. Be happy. We don't think, as long as they don't think it provides an advantage for players, which clearly they don't, or they would have never done it, then maybe it will make a small subset of people happy who aren't into the blue thing. So,
I think if anything, this is a testament to how involved DICE has gotten with the community. And when we played Battlefield 2, these patches would roll out, and we would never know about it until right before they hit. We'd see the patch notes maybe a day or two before the patch rolled out. And it would always seem like the changes were done without any type of information that was given to them from the community. It was just what they felt needed to be changed. And I feel like DICE has gotten a lot better with interaction in the community and taking the responses they're getting to heart and thinking that, I think we can see that with like the AC-130 and things like that. They're making these fixes because the community has outcried enough for it. So I think just as DICE as a whole with their community interaction, they've been doing a lot better.
Yeah, and Riz in the chat room makes a good point, saying looking at the environment is much different than playing in it. So, I will not disagree that Wake Island without the blue tent looks great, but we're not going on vacation there. So, that's not what it's about. Anyway, so that's going to happen, I guess, in an upcoming patch. Of course, the other big thing that's sort of tangentially related to Battlefield 3 is Medal of Honor Warfighter, which I guess is coming out on Monday night or Tuesday morning, sometime like that.
Yep.
And of course, it uses the Frostbite 2 engine, and it's also powered by Battlelog. So, there's also been some great deals that have come out for Battlefield 3 premium members, where you get 50% off when you purchase Warfighter. So that's a pretty good deal. It's a different game than Battlefield 3, obviously, but it's still a DICE developed game, and it looks good. Anyway, so there's some things that if you join, you can unlock the Swedish spec op. It's written up on Battlelog with a few other details about it. So we'll see what the community is going to do. I have a feeling that there's a bit of a love-hate relationship around Medal of Honor. Not as bad as with Call of Duty, for example. But, there's some staunch Battlefield supporters where it's Battlefield or nothing. So.
Sure. Right. And it was funny because I feel like Medal of Honor took a very long hiatus between its World War II and modern combat style. When we saw it came out in 2010, we're like, holy crap, Medal of Honor is back. I thought it was pretty much a dying title. So it's cool to see them use the new Frostbite engine as well. So
I never played the first Medal of Honor, really. I shouldn't say the first. The last one that came out. I used to play Medal of Honor back in the day, like the original ones, Medal of Honor, Allied Assault, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I played
exactly.
Those. Yeah. So they were fun. So you've already created a platoon for Battlefield Podcast. That obviously, if you search on Battlelog, if you have Medal of Honor Warfighter, you can search for Battlefield Podcast and join that platoon. MOHHQ also has one, but apparently you can only join one platoon in that game instead of multiple. Like in Battlefield 3, I think you can be a member of. I'm not sure if there's actually a limit or not, but you can certainly be in multiple platoons, but not in Warfighter.
So I have a question that might be relevant to some people listening as well. I don't know a damn thing about Medal of Honor, actually. I have to confess. I haven't played any of the games in the series. I haven't followed how would you summarize what's different about Medal of Honor compared to Battlefield 3? What might inspire a Battlefield player to check it out?
Fast action first-person shooter. I think I can sum it up into those words right there. If you like close quarters,
then how would you contrast Medal of Honor with Call of Duty? Is the next question.
Destruction.
I don't know yet because I only played it for a little while. I was, I guess I can say it now. I guess I did some alpha testing. The last one I played was Medal of Honor, or not Medal of Honor, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So there's some things that are kind of similar, but I feel like it's got less of a. I think it comes down to community and player base. It's got a less of an immature crowd. I feel like the players on this would be a little bit more mature when it comes to that. I feel like a lot of them are going to come off from the Battlefield community. I don't think we're going to see a lot of COD players come to Medal of Honor. I feel like you're going to have Call of Duty hardcore fans. They're going to stay with COD, and they're not going to kind of venture over to Medal of Honor. Hopefully, but I think it's hard to compare and contrast these two. If you like playing close quarters, and I think you're going to enjoy playing Medal of Honor, just because close quarters is based off that fast pace first-person shooter, very fast action and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good to know. I do like me some close quarters. I like me some 64-player close quarters, which usually results in like gasps of agony or disgust from people, but I find it fun.
Yeah, there's some hair-pulling moments there. I'm just like, I can't take it anymore.
I love it.
All right, well, let's get back to Battlefield and talk about the next DLC, Aftermath. We got some details in the past week. They dropped the premiere trailer for it, which is a couple minutes long and showing some in-game footage, I suppose. It's not a whole lot. It features. Let's see. Let's go through the summary sort of. There's going to be 4 new maps.
Yep, correct.
Heavily modified vehicles, some new player skins, and a new weapon. That to me, we'll talk about it in more detail. It's a crossbow, but it seems to me like it's been tacked on because so much was made about whether or not there was going to be weapons or not. But I assume you both have watched the trailer. I'm playing it right now. What did you guys think of the trailer? It didn't show a lot. It was very cinematic, I would say. Not like the multiplayer trailers we've seen in the past for Armor Kill, for example.
Yeah. I was a bit disappointed in the trailer itself because I was hoping to see more gameplay footage, although then there was some gameplay footage released in other videos in the past few days, so I feel like I got my fill of that. I'm excited for it. I've kind of been excited about Aftermath for a while because I feel like it's hopefully going to be some of that happy medium between close quarters and armored kill, which I both enjoyed, but not as much as I enjoyed the sort of happy medium, the balance of infantry and vehicles. And it feels like Aftermath is finally going to be more of that. And I'm excited that it's coming out sooner too, because it had been 3 months between expansion packs. I had sort of been expecting Aftermath would be January, and in retrospect, of course, they wanted to get out for Christmas, but I was excited to see that it's coming soon.
Yeah, I could definitely see them using this as a selling point for Christmas time. People wanting, Battlefield Premium, and they're showing off Aftermath. It's interesting. One of the lead designers there was a YouTube interview. He came on saying that this is a nice mix between what we've done with Armored Kill and with Close Quarters. If you're into that, if you're into the fast-paced close quarters, but then you're also into vehicles, this is going to be a good spot for you to be in. You're really going to enjoy this a lot. And from the videos that I've seen so far, there's 2 main clips: the trailer, and then there's some extra Aftermath footage that EA put out. It's going to be very enjoyable. I think there's going to be some tight niche corners, and there's going to be some big open areas. And I think it's a good happy medium. I think I'm definitely going to enjoy it.
So, the 4 maps, and I think you didn't get this written down, Tim, did you? You just derived that out of the video. There's obviously...
Yeah, correct.
They seem to be, they're smaller maps. Clearly, Armor Kill was the one for the huge maps. This is all about during or after an earthquake. Similar to some of the stuff we saw in the single-player campaign, I guess. And the Russians are replaced with Iranian soldiers in scavenger mode, so that's the new game mode. There's going to be new clothing skins due to the earthquake, faces covered with blood and stuff like that. So that's going to be interesting because, I think we're all fairly tired of seeing the same player models, in all the maps.
Yeah, this is cool.
So.
I'm curious, I assume if they're going to have Iranian soldiers that they're probably going to have a new set of voice actors speaking in Farsi, I think it is. I hope I'm not embarrassing myself by saying the wrong language. But and that's quite a bit of dialogue for each of the languages. That's actually kind of a cool and subtle drop of new content. And if they do that, I'm actually a bit surprised that it would only be in scavenger mode. That seems like an expensive bit of content if they actually got new voice actors for what'll probably be a somewhat of a novelty mode.
No, I really hope that they don't just put it in scavenger mode. I hope it's in all game styles or gameplay modes for these 4 maps, because it'll be really odd just to see Iranian soldiers in scavenger mode, and then you go play domination, and there's Russian soldiers, and it doesn't make sense if you're talking about an earthquake in Iran. Why are Russian soldiers there? So all the maps we've seen so far, except for the Back to Karkan series, everything else has been kind of a European or even almost American style maps, which would make sense with the single player storyline.
Well, I'm looking forward to the new maps and the new player models. I think this DLC might actually contain more new content than some of the previous ones that, it's sort of more hidden. I mean, it has 4 new maps, as did the other 2 DLCs. It has 1 new weapon, but it's not just a weapon, but it has some different options to it as well. It's going to have the usual, the new assignments, weapon camos probably. Obviously the player models. No new vehicles in this, I guess, but I think it's going to be it's a nice mix of new things that we haven't already seen. So I'm quite looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah, I'm interested to figure out though. There is one vehicle that I couldn't figure out. There's a scene where this guy's shooting on an automatic grenade launcher, and I'm wondering if they'd actually show what it was attached to, and I'm wondering if it's going to be on the back of some truck or some type of just civilian type vehicle.
Well, we've always
not on the back of like a Vodnik.
We've always speculated that some of these heavily modified civilian vehicles would be things like technicals, like pickup trucks with mounted machine guns on the back, or the typical thing you see in movies, for example. So
I would hope so. Yeah, like almost like a Black Hawk Down style type of scenario.
So it's going to be interesting. You will have vehicles such as helicopters and tanks on the new maps as well, but they're all sort of city maps, so it says it requires some more skill not to crash into buildings. So that's going to be fun.
But it's going to be cool seeing helicopters fly down side streets and whatnot in between.
Yeah, little birds especially. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. I would hope that they put the smaller type helicopters, not the big Hueys and other large transport helicopters.
Yeah, and I can't wait. I'm sure we'll find out more in further trailers as time goes on. They usually do more. This was more of a cinematic trailer in the sense that it was all shot from different angles and stuff. It was a little different than the gameplay footage that we've seen before for Armored Kill, for example. I'm sure we're going to get that soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So the crossbow, if you want to talk about that a little bit more, that is the new weapon. It's not really a weapon, so it doesn't fill your main or side weapon slot 1 or 2 or whatever it is on the consoles. It's a gadget, I guess. So it would be in a similar spot as the tugs or M320 and whatnot.
Correct.
There's 2 different types of the bow, one with a sniper scope and one without. And then there's going to be different ammunition, different bolt types. There's normal, snipe. I don't know what that exactly is.
Snipe is so there's a short to medium range and then a medium to long range.
Okay.
So I think that's what it means. What we're looking at is that there is a forum post made on Battlelog by Odiving Dragon.
Yeah, I tried to open that, but it wouldn't load for me just now.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I found this on Battlelog, and he had put some speculations, and it seemed like a lot of it was more true facts than speculated facts.
Mm-hmm. It has obviously it has some sort of explosive bolt, which would be cool. So I think it does make it a little bit more useful as opposed to just being another weapon, because it did originally when I first saw this, it was like, oh great, and they caved again to public pressure as to having weapons in it. But this may or may not be actually useful. I guess every class can use it, so it's not limited to just a sniper or something like that. I don't know. I'm not convinced to see exactly what it's going to do. I could see an explosive arrow or bolt, I guess, it'd be quite useful. But
yeah, they were calling that the anti-vehicle bolt, They said there was going to be a very high explosive round that could be used to possibly disable vehicles as they come flying by. So
that's interesting. I'm the one I'm most interested in from a gameplay mechanics perspective. Actually, the explosive bolt is pretty interesting. Also, given that this is in a gadget slot, because that turns every player into at least some degree of minimal anti-vehicle capabilities. But the detection bolt to give motion detection capabilities to any class, that's potentially a pretty interesting mechanic too, and pretty different from anything they've had in there so far.
This definitely reminds me of Hawkeyes from the Avengers.
Well, see, what I was thinking is in one of the
a bunch of different attachments on for his bolts. So this is pretty cool.
In one of the Bad Company games, you used to be able to shoot a laser marker onto vehicles. So it would be kind of cool if they had something like that as well. But I guess we'll see.
Almost like the dart system in Bad Company too.
Yeah, exactly. So.
My concern with the crossbow, I don't even know if it's a concern. The piece that I'm not excited about is the thematic piece. Like, I think the gameplay mechanics of being able to have motion detection or an explosive bolt in this gadget slot, that's kind of interesting. But I don't know, maybe I'm not that familiar with modern militaries. Maybe there's contexts where they would actually use a crossbow, but the sense I have of crossbows today in modern times is it's sort of a novelty hunting thing. It feels like it thematically just doesn't fit and kind of dilutes the setting.
You're right. It definitely has a very odd feel to it. Like I like the word used, the thematic setup. The bow is interesting. It's actually based off of a company's, I guess you could call it assault style crossbow. It's made by PSE. It's called the PSE TAC 15, and essentially it's an AR-15 receiver. So the bottom half, where the trigger and handle, the buttstock, and then the rail system, and then you pretty much just take the normal crossbow and slab it on top, and it's an actual assault crossbow. But like you were saying, I guess there could be some type of military usage to this, maybe some type of very quiet, stealthy assassination style, possibly. I mean, it's definitely very quiet. You're not going to have any real noise other than the tension on the wire snapping back, and it's about as much as you're going to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, it definitely turns you into a very stealthy type of player. You have like the snipers with silencers and flash suppressors. We haven't seen a weapon that is entirely silent. Like, so if someone fires a crossbow, it shouldn't, in theory, show up on the minimap.
Yeah, I would imagine
there's no type of percussion, and everything on the minimap is usually done by some type of sound, explosions, any type of a bullet being fired, the combustion. So it's definitely adds a different. It changes the scenario a little bit for the battlefield.
Gumby 8888 says, "Can you attach a rope to it and ride it?" That reminds me of the zip line in Special Forces Battlefield 2.
Exactly. Alan Kurtz made a tweet this week, and he was talking about if we introduced a Spec Op class into Battlefield, how would you configure it? Mm-hmm. And I begged him. I was like, a Spec Ops player is an infiltrator. It's someone who wants to get behind enemy lines and not be seen. So, flashbangs, zip lines, things like that, and the tracer darts, things like that keep you very quiet.
The grappling hook was ideal, though, too.
And the grappling hook.
Because people would always use
over walls and
people would ride the MAV to get to higher locations, but which is kind of lame. But I think it would be really cool if there was a gadget that you could use to legitimately, scale some of the buildings. And
grappling hook would be really cool.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be neat. The other thing, of course, we're going to get a new game mode. They call it Scavenger Mode, which sounds really exciting. Where basically the entire team will start with only a sidearm with limited ammo, a knife, and one grenade in there, and of course their squad perks. And then you have to find weapons that are hidden all over the map, which also have limited ammo. So I guess there's going to be a couple different stages, Tim, if you want to mention those.
Yeah, so there's gonna be 3 different stages of weapons. So the first stage you're gonna have your low caliber low caliber style type
Say
of
that 4
weapon.
times fast.
Yeah, right. You're gonna have things like the submachine guns, so the PDWs, things like that, which are gonna be found in low traffic areas, so things that aren't as dangerous as they say. They say the areas like close to where you spawn. And then as you progress through the tiers, you'll have a second stage, which will probably be like shotguns, and then your third stage will be your high caliber rifles, sniper rifles, LMGs, carbines, will be centered around the flags or high traffic areas, dangerous areas, as they say in the YouTube video. So it'll be very hard to be able to grab these drops, these weapon drops that are found throughout the map. So this is something we haven't seen. It's almost like taking Conquest Domination and Gunmaster to a certain extent, and kind of throwing them together into one a game style, and then throwing it out there and saying, "Here, try it out and see what happens." Because we've never seen anything like this before.
No.
It almost kind of reminds me of like DayZ or like Warzy, the game we're playing right now, where you have to look around and try to find weapons that are throughout the map.
I mean, some people have compared it a bit to Gunmaster, but it's fairly different. Like in Gunmaster, you have a linear progression where with every 2 kills,
Correct.
you get a better weapon. Whereas with this, you could find a really nice weapon, run out of ammo, and be back down to just your sidearm. So it promotes a lot of movement and stuff like. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. There's not going to be any vehicles, so it's going to be purely infantry driven. And I think a lot of people are looking forward to this to see what it's like. It also fits really well with the motif of these maps, the whole earthquake scenario, and you could imagine that there would just be munitions thrown all over the place.
Yeah, the lead designer of our producer, lead producer of Aftermath. I can't think of his name, but he kept on using the analogy of a phoenix being born again from the rubble or from the ashes. So he kept on saying, being reborn again or coming from the rubble. So that's what they want to give that feel is like, you woke up from, this huge earthquake and all you have is just your essentials and you have to go out and try to, fight the enemy, but at the same time try to survive. So it's definitely, it's a cool scenario that we're going to find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Whereas, say Tank Superiority was fun, but I think it'll probably be sort of a novelty mode, and same with Gunmaster. This seems like a cool twist on Team Deathmatch that, has a lot of that same flavor, but with a little extra complexity and strategy. There's flags to go for. You have to be constantly managing your weapons and managing your ammo and adjusting to firing whatever sort of weapon you do find. I think that sounds like fun. Yeah,
it's very adaptive. You have to adapt very quickly to your surroundings. To answer Savram, in scavenger mode, no, you won't be able to drop med packs or ammo packs. What they said in the interview was that you will have different class skins on, but everyone's the same thing. There's no difference to picking an assault class over recon.
Right, so it's similar to Gunmaster, where it really didn't matter.
Exactly.
The same.
Right. It's just, sometimes you see everyone as medics, or there'd be like one recon guy thrown in there with an LMG.
Yeah.
It's all just skins. It doesn't really matter what you are.
That's right.
Hopefully it won't overwrite all my loadouts like Gunmaster does.
No, that would suck.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that happens. That might happen first, and then they'll put in a fix or something like that. So for the vehicles, I guess there's going to be 3 new vehicles. The Jeep sort of that we mentioned, mostly civilian vehicles, armored with metal plates, things like that. And then they also have these light transports with a grenade machine launcher. And so,
this is the grenade machine launcher I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. The U.S. Phoenix and the Russian Barzuk, I guess is what it's called.
Called the Badger in Russian.
So, and they're I guess sort of low-grade APC or something, troop carriers, right? It's all about getting people from place A to B. And then there's also, what is that, Rhino?
Yeah, it's the Rhino. It's just a complete civilian vehicle. It's probably just some type of sedan that you can stick your guns out in the side of the windows and shoot from.
It's going to have a remote-controlled machine gun.
I didn't see that part.
All right, so it's right there. You pasted this in here, buddy. No, just kidding.
Oh, you're right. No, yeah,
remote
fitted
control
with an
machine
armor
gun.
and remote controlled machine gun. Well, so that we'll have things like we see with the Humvee and the Vodnik. So where you're sitting inside of it, but you're still able to operate the machine gun without sitting from the top. Where you're open to the environment, like we saw like in BF2 when you were the gunner for the Humvee or the Vodnik, you were out in the open. You were able to get sniped as the gunner. So it was almost a burden to be the gunner for the Jeep that you were in because you knew at some point you were going to get shot out.
So this should be interesting. I wonder how powerful that's going to be. And exactly how that's going to work as far as the arrangement of driving while controlling this machine gun as well. So we'll see. I'm sure we're going to see much more of this over the coming weeks, and I'm actually quite looking forward to this. I've still playing some of Armored Kill. There's a few assignments that I've given up on. They'll probably come over the months and months of playing. This is also going to come with new assignments, new dog tags, including one that looks pretty cool. It's called Old School, and it's basically an arrow hitting the center of a target. So that was a screenshot posted of that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing actual in-game multiplayer footage of this. Looks pretty good. ATF Bartman, I have not gotten your tweet, but I also haven't checked my tweets in a little while. So, the heck are you talking about, Tim?
Oh, sorry. It's Geiger's from on Twitter, I believe, and he is he pre-ordered Medal of Honor from it's not EB Games or GameStop.
Okay.
And they're not doing a midnight release of Medal of Honor, so he's not able to get it because he plays on Xbox.
Yeah, you know what? The one thing that I do quite like about Origin and the PC side is Origin is quite easy to use. You go in there, you purchase your stuff, you preload it, and it just activates when the time comes. So it's really convenient.
Yeah,
that is
definitely one of the perks for being a PC
player.
player.
People always say, there's a lot of benefits to consoles, a lot of simplicity, but some of these systems like Origin, Steam, obviously, similar idea, are really, really nice. They've really come a long way. So it's a great way for buying PC games. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pure Battlefield with James and a little bit about Reddit as well. So if you guys have any questions about what Pure Battlefield is, what the Battlefield community on Reddit is like, please feel free to start typing them in the chat and we'll keep an eye on it.
Battlefield Podcast Spotlight of the Week.
All right, so James, I guess a couple months ago, probably, you got a hold of me and mentioned Pure Battlefield to me. I hadn't heard of it before, but why don't you give our listeners and the viewers a little bit of an overview of what Pure Battlefield is exactly?
Sure. So let's see. So Pure Battlefield is a Battlefield 3 gaming community. We're built around a 64-player Conquest server. That's our main server, although we also have a second server where we run special community events every week. And the sort of catalyst or genesis for the server originally was, at least for those of us who play on PC, and maybe for those who play on consoles, it's hard to find servers sometimes that just have the default gameplay settings, in particular that have default vehicle spawns and that have reasonable ticket counts. And it's hard to find servers with full map rotations. And those are things that I, as a player, always really liked. I always enjoyed the sort of the full diversity and breadth of the Battlefield experience that different maps would offer. I feel like DICE did a pretty good job with the default gameplay settings and how they tune that, but it was really hard to find those servers. And a lot of people on Reddit and in the community I was seeing having the same complaint. So I was like, let's solve this problem. Let's do something about it and see if there's enough people interested in setting up a server. So that's what we did. And pretty early on, I realized that what I was most excited about was not just setting up a server, but actually building a community around that server. And so we've got a TeamSpeak server that's configured to automatically synchronize players on our server into private channels with their squad mates. So for those of you who play on PC, you're really familiar with the lack of VoIP on PC and what a gaping hole that is for for a game that's as team play oriented as Battlefield. And our setup helps fill that void a lot. Like, it's actually really easy coming into our server on prime time any night. There's about 15 people that are on TeamSpeak, so you can find a full squad to be in VoIP with really fast. We've got a subreddit, which is a message forum that I think you guys have some more specific questions about that, but that has about 400 subscribers, and we've just created an open, welcoming community for people that want great Battlefield gameplay and want to share that experience with other people who like the same thing.
Yeah, it is interesting that after a while, at first those 1,000 ticket Metro servers are really appealing because you can rank up really fast, but after a while it's kind of like, okay, you know what, I would just like to play some normal Battlefield where I get a little bit of everything the way it was intended to be done. And you're right, it can be a little hard to find servers that do that, but I think more importantly, it's difficult to tell what these server settings are a lot of times. Yes, you can see the ticket count, but it's hard to tell other than having it in the description, normal vehicle spawn times, a lot of them have fast respawn times. So knowing that
they
server
just rolled out actually a battle log patch for that in the past week,
right? So
you can now filter for some of those things.
That's good. That must be that's a really valid feature because a lot of times you can't tell. So on the flip side, I know we've played on some servers where it's fast vehicle spawns because all we wanted to do was go after some assignments or something where it required you to fly the helicopter or whatnot. But I've played on your server a few times, and it seems to be more balanced gameplay in general, because a lot of times people will complain that this is overpowered or that's overpowered, but the game is so customizable from the server side that it's really hard sometimes for people to tell whether the issues they're having in the game are caused by the way that server is set up or because of the way that DICE balanced the game. So.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that credit goes to DICE because we're just pretty much using the default settings. A lot of that credit also goes to our volunteer admin team because they spend a lot of time dealing with cheaters or suspected cheaters that come onto the server and kind of keeping them out. But that's part of what we try to provide.
So you say you have the 164-player server. Is it just vanilla maps in the rotation, or do you also support the DLCs?
All conquest maps from all the DLCs. And that's when the server's full. When the server's at lower population, it does have a vanilla-only rotation to attract more players and build the population, but as soon as it fills up, it's all maps from all expansions.
And the one thing I've also noticed is that there's usually admins around, which is always a nice feature, obviously.
Yep. We have 13 admins right now, and are going to be working on taking some more applications soon to make sure that we keep good admin coverage.
Did you ever think about those folks who play on the Xbox or the PS3? Is there a lot of call for that as well, or is it mostly PC players that frequent not just that particular server, obviously, but the pure Battlefield community?
Right now, I think our community is 99.9, if not 100% PC, because that's what our server is. So that's the people who visit. I like the idea if we can build something awesome, and I feel like we have built something awesome. I like the idea of spreading awesome things to as many people as possible. So my hope and aspiration, if we can get kind of enough community support in terms of donations and volunteers and that kind of thing, is to expand the community to have multiple servers, eventually to multiple platforms. Sure. I think that would probably be a long ways off. For the foreseeable future, we'd be focusing on it, kind of creating additional servers for our existing community more than sort of creating an entirely new branch that would be mostly separate people. But I like the idea of going there eventually. I will mention briefly, while we're on the topic of Xbox, there is another somewhat similar Battlefield 3 community called Free Hugs BF3. So if there's any Xbox players listening and you want to check them out, you can go to freehugsbf3.reddit.com, and it's somewhat similar. They've got a good team of admins that keep the servers in line. They have like 4 servers running, and they keep a friendly, team play oriented environment, and a really active community there.
So tell us a little bit about Reddit and how Pure Battlefield relates to Reddit. Now, Reddit is sort of it's a very community-driven site, isn't it, in a way? And like one of the things that we've experienced in the past, that it's really easy to rent a server and configure it the way you want, but the hard part's always keeping it populated and having people actually want to play in your server, as opposed to just having it sit there and you're in there with a couple of your buddies and then nothing ever happens. So I would imagine that having the community around it is a big part of a successful server.
Yeah. The challenge of server seating and getting up to that critical mass of people every day turns out is really, really hard. Way harder than I thought it was going to be when I started out. So let's see, to answer your questions, so for people who aren't that familiar with Reddit, people are probably at least aware that it's sort of a combination of a link sharing site and a discussion forum where people can share links and discuss those links, and upvote links and comment. So the best ones, as decided by the community, get voted to the top. And there's an infinite number of what are called subreddits, which is anyone can create one of these forums around a particular topic, or 50 people can create them around a topic. It's just it's an open frontier in that regard. So there's a Battlefield 3 subreddit, which is large. It has like 50,000 subscribers and a good amount of traffic. Pure Battlefield has its own subreddit, so we're sort of I don't know that I'd say we're a sub community of the Battlefield 3 Reddit community, but I'd say our roots are from the Battlefield 3 Reddit community, and they seeded us. Not all of our community members are from Reddit today. We're not a sort of Reddit community in the sense that we're Reddit only, or you have to like Reddit, or you have to use Reddit. We're Reddit community in the sense of that's kind of where we started and where a lot of our early community members came from, and so we've got an affinity to them. Redditors tend to be. So
really Reddit came before the Pure Battlefield server.
Yeah, I mean, Reddit has been around for, I don't know, 5 to 8 years maybe. Yeah. The Battlefield 3 subreddit has been there since pre-launch, and the Pure Battlefield subreddit has been there for about 3 months.
I guess what I mean is, were you active on, say, the Battlefield 3 subreddit, and then decided we should have a subreddit for people who like having this Pure experience, and then decided to get a server? Or was it, hey, I should get the server and I'm going to use Reddit as a source or as a resource to build the community around the server?
Sort of both. So the story of how it unfolded was I was lounging around one Sunday morning. This was in like early July, so I'd been playing Battlefield 3 for a while and have experienced this frustration around difficulty finding these sorts of servers for a while. And there had just happened to be a string of high voted posts on the Battlefield 3 subreddit in the past couple days from people complaining about the same thing. And I was just like, I want this. It seems like other people want this, and I have time right now. I could work on setting this up. Maybe I'll see who would be interested, see who could help out. And so I posted something to the subreddit saying, all right, I'm thinking of actually doing this. At the time, it was also sort of a recruiting post, because I wanted to hire a server manager who sort of knew the ropes and could help me with a lot of the legwork of getting it set up, because I suspected I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. And that post was crazily well received. It got several hundred upvotes and spent most of the day at the top of the Battlefield 3 subreddit. And it was that response that really inspired and encouraged me to say, wow, all right, I guess the community wants it. So let's do it. So I don't know, I forget exactly what your question was. I hope it did.
Yeah, that made good sense. So it's really, I think the one thing that you mentioned that is a really good point is that a server is really only as good as the people that play in it. And we hear a lot about bad admins or badmins or whatever, especially on the console side. So I find it really almost comforting when you're playing in a server and you know that there's an admin there that is not going to abuse his powers, switch people around, whatever, but is also going to be there in case somebody comes in and starts hacking or is just being, an idiot, destroying their own vehicles in their base or whatever, which happens every once in a while. So for me, when I pick a server and I've come across a server where I know that has worked out well, that's when you add a server to your favorites and you return. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really frustrating thing when you're having a great time playing someplace and there's someone that one way or another starts ruining it for you, and makes you go through that legwork of, okay, now I quit, now I'm going to find another server. So we want to try to make that as rare as possible.
Right. Do you see any negative feedback in what you're doing with Pure Battlefield? I would feel like the people that are going over to your subreddit would be going there because they want to be there, not to flame. But is my assumption completely wrong?
No, I mean your assumption is mostly correct. You never make everyone happy all the time. So there's been a few times that some people have given us some flack or something. One that comes to mind in particular was some guy we banned for using racist language, and I think the admin said you were being racist in his response, and the guy didn't feel he was racist because he used the word, so he came on and he sort of, posted a big rant about how he wasn't actually racist, and there's a bit of drama like that, but someone posts that and then it sort of gets downvoted quickly because there wasn't really substance to it, and then it doesn't really show up.
But there's nobody who's actually against the movement of playing Battlefield in its purity, what it was actually designed to be.
No, I don't think. Well, and part of my philosophy and approach on it is it's not, I'm not, and I don't think our community is saying this is how everyone should play Battlefield, but just this is a great way to play Battlefield, and this is how we like to play Battlefield. And there's people who love 1,000-ticket Metro servers, like more power to them. Like it's just there's already plenty of those out there. And there aren't many servers like this, so we're filling a niche.
Cool. Yeah, I just had a curiosity to try to figure out if there was just some hardcore Battlefield players like, no, it needs to be played this way or that way. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you have it seems like you have a solid community.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of them hanging out in the chat room, which is cool to see. So
awesome.
There was actually a question in the chat a little while ago saying, how soon after Aftermath comes out will we see them in your server rotation?
Immediately, and we sort of learned this from Armored Kill. Basically, like the instant it's released, we're going to be 24/7 Aftermath for, if kind of depending what the community and the player base wants. But if it follows the pattern of Armored Kill, probably for a week or so, we'll be 24/7 Aftermath, and then start to sort of phase our regular map rotation in gradually the few weeks thereafter.
And for people who don't do Reddit, like I'm quoting someone from the chat, the server name I know has Pure in it. What's the actual full server name so people can find it?
Pure Battlefield. So if you search for Pure Battlefield, those two words, you'll see it. It comes up in all caps. You can also just type purebattlefield.org. That takes you to our subreddit page, which has links to the servers there.
Yeah, I guess people should know that you don't have to be signed up or anything on Reddit. It's a perfectly open site that you can read everything. I think you have to create an account to comment on things, but certainly you don't have to sign up just to check it out. And I would invite people to check it out. It's definitely a good server. So I think you've done a good job there. You and everyone who's helping you out.
Thanks. Yeah, and there are a lot of people helping out. Yeah, it's a community effort, and we want to make it more of a community effort. And just, one more thought that I'd like to share before we sort of wrap up, if I could, is, another thing that, something else that I think makes us different from a lot of other servers out there is that we're building it around an open community as opposed to a more exclusive clan. So a lot of servers you go to, if you want to sort of more connect with a regular base of players more, what you're often talking about is joining a clan, which has, a lot of constraints with it because they're kind of trying to build something really specific. Your schedule might need to line up. You might need to click really well with the particular leader or the 10 clan members, or you might need to like pass a tryout. And this, we're going less for our server as sort of a private clan clubhouse and more like a community basketball court at a park, right? Where anyone can come by and and find people to play with. So it's open, welcoming. Anybody who just wants to come by and find other players who love Battlefield 3 is welcome.
Cool.
Yeah.
James, I have a question for you. When do you guys do your community events?
Right now, Maverick, I don't know if he's hanging out in the chat room or not. Maverick is our guy who's running our weekly community events. And what he's been doing is Mario Quad. So this is Mario Kart, right? But on the quads from Armored Kill.
Nice.
Things like where you have like a guy driving and then a gunner on the back shooting rockets. So right now they're every Sunday, usually in like the late afternoon or early evening Eastern time. There's info on those at battlefield.org too.
Awesome.
All right. Unless there's any other questions from the chat or anything that you guys want to mention still, I think that's probably going to do it for another week. We'll be back, I think, in 2 weeks. We're going to take next week off. Is next week the weekend with the double XP, Tim?
I think so.
Starts
I think you are correct with that one.
It's like a week-long event or something. It's 5 days, I think. It was announced on Battlelog, so we'll definitely check it out.
It does start the 30th of October and goes till the 3rd of November.
Yeah, so that goes for like a weird... It's from like a Wednesday, and then it's like a long weekend with half the week prior to that included or something. So, yeah, so we're going to be off next week, and then the week after that we'll be back. Not sure who's going to join us again. We still want to have Daskro on and have sort of a discussion on the business of Battlefield, so that may take place in 2 weeks. We'll see how things go. And, of course, there's going to be more details on Aftermath released, I'm sure. So we'll be covering those. Just want to remind you again, if you have any ability to grow facial hair at all, and don't worry if it looks cheesy or 70s porn star-ish. That's part of the point, to be honest. So if you head over to Movember.com, yeah, it's all right, Tim. Movember.com is the official site where you can create an account and sort of take a look around and see what it's all about. And then tinyurl.com/Movember, BFP Movember, will link you to our forum post where you can find out some more details. And we'd love to see some of the guys from Pure Battlefield grow some facial hair as well. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I seem to have started already from not shaving in the past few days, so maybe this will evolve into an experiment. We'll see.
There you go. Thank you again, James, for joining us. And yeah, for everybody who hasn't checked out your server yet, make sure you do that. It's a great server. I can recommend it highly. And thank you, Tim, as always. And we'll see everyone else on the Battlefield, and hit us up on Battlelog and youtube.com/Battlefield Podcast. We're at BF Podcast on Twitter, facebook.com/Battlefield Podcast, and of course battlefieldpodcast.com, and also on iTunes. So thanks again to Battlefield as well for letting us stream here, and thanks to everybody in the chat. It's always nice to see you guys chipping in and asking questions. So we'll see you in a week.
Bye.